So George is out in the backyard today. He's being supervised by his big brother, and they are doing some archery together. They have been learning. This is just a child's bow. We picked up some replacement arrows at the store for about $4 a piece maybe. I recommend if you do get anything like this, we started out with the little wood ones because they were about $2 and they broke the first day using them. They were breaking going into the barrel or bale. They were breaking hitting the tree. So the store refunded our money and we upgraded to fiberglass. And I think we've probably had them for about 6 months now, 8 months, and it's been working out. They're just learning the basics. Maybe he'll grow up to be a hunter and fill the freezer with deer. Look at that. Good job. This is a nice thing for kids to do together. He actually got into it because his big sister, who is now 10, wanted to learn it because she heard the neighbor girls were doing it. Oh, nice. As for me, I'm on a bit of a nature walk right now. I'm supposed to get to slightly above 50 today. It's a bit windy, cold wind. We went into town and it said 49. Bees will fly and clean out their hives in 50-degree weather. So the boys said they saw a lot of bees at a hive that was empty going into fall, and I wondered if it was from this devastation. So if you've been watching along, early fall, I think it was around August, we had a tornado go through here, and our neighbors just got back into their house about a week ago yesterday, and this tree had broken off, another tree tipped over and hit the house real bad, and we just had this tree fall and a couple of grain bins blow away. Now this tree was housing a beehive, and I wondered if the bees down the lane had moved from here, and we had to leave the tree at the time because of the bees in there. And if I send my husband over to cut it when it's warm, he has to suit up in beekeeping equipment, which can be hard running the chainsaw. Now, further down into this area, it won't bother so much, and maybe even down here, but the noise of the saw could bother him too. He was cutting some brush next to the cows at the creek last year, if you saw in another video, and some hornets got them. And the thing about bees is they only sting once, but they send out an alarm to tell the other bees to come along. I see a lot of insects flying, but I don't see any bees yet. So they were up right at that crook where there's kind of two pieces coming together, or the crotch of the tree. So I set up a beehive here every year trying to catch them because it's too high and you can't get in there without cutting up the tree, to see if they might move in. And this was hit in the storm, but I couldn't get here to get to it because you can see it gets pretty wet because we're just slightly downhill from the old homestead, and we're thinking maybe there's some tile work that could be done here. It's at the edge of the hayfield, so it hasn't been a problem. So this bottom board is no good. It's been busted, but I don't see any activity going on in here. I was hoping they might move in during the winter just for some security, a place to stay. And I don't see any evidence in there of any former beehive stuff, just lots of insect damage. So right up there, I got kind of up underneath there. I don't see anything going on. It might just be that it's too cold. Maybe they found a better home for the winter, because it would seem like any rain would just run into there. So I'm hoping that's what I got. I've been trying to catch this hive, or at least swarms from this hive, for years. So I'm just kind of evaluating the situation. My birthday's this week, and I wondered if I should ask for a nucleus hive or a starter hive to get going up for my bees for the winter. And I don't think I'm going to have to, because once those bees start working, like I actually saw a bee going in with some pollen on its legs. So some of the trees could be starting to blossom. It's an early spring. It wasn't a bad winter. We've actually seen dandelions in the last 2 weeks already popping up. So that is a great sign so that the bees will be able to survive. But I think I'm gonna find a feeder jar. You can give them sugar and water, or watered down honey, or just straight honey. So that gives them extra food stores for the winter to help them make it through the rest. We don't know if this cold is over or not, but it's looking really good after today. We've always taken a lot of nature walks in the spring, just kind of checking things out and seeing what kind of work you have to do for cleanup. And part of the plan also, I figured we could start cleaning up some of that firewood during the week. But the homestead is over here on the other side of the creek, and I, from my kitchen window, can see this spot. We've dug up over here before for a bad drain tile, and I'm wondering if there's another broken section, because there has been areas where there was not melted snow, and then this area all melted. And to me it looks kind of wet, so I think we've got another issue going on here. Oh, for sure. There's a lot of water right there. So he's gonna have to come out here and get this fixed up. That water's bubbling up. And I think we did it probably over in there where you can see it's slightly different whenever there's been like some field damage. Oh, here it is. I can see it right there. So we watch for things like this, because after a while you can start having trouble, and that'll be easy for him to find. So 2 good finds from this walk. I've got some bees that made it through the winter that I didn't have to pay for, and I know that we've got some firewood to clean up, and that's more free heat, more free hot water to get us through the rest of the winter. We need to find out a situation for heating water, solar for the summer, or just wood-fired water heater only. I've seen those kind of in those bug out shelter sort of things. I don't want to go drastic. Sometimes it's real easy to hit a switch, but I hesitate to hit that switch to turn on the water heater anytime that I actually need the extra boost. If, like, tomorrow's going to be a warm day, we have a need for more hot water than usual, you know, for particular reasons. You know, we have the dairy cows and, well, the 2 milking cows. And I have to figure out how to get back over this creek, so I was just find a good spot to cross. I've got to plan out my day a little bit tomorrow. We'll need some rec gas for the chainsaw. We try to always leave the creek as natural as possible, and it's getting kind of grown up with some brush. So if you just kind of mosey through here, this was all absolutely flooded when that snow was melting just weeks ago. It's a good trapping creek if a guy was into that. But we just use it to cross over. And I can cross to this rock. Not so bad. I can still do it. Well, George just went over with Murdoch. They came to see what I was doing. This is the other side. So, I'll just mosey on up here, see how things are going this way. A good nature walk kind of reveals things that maybe you forgot about. I've got some volunteer raspberry plants growing where they shouldn't be. And this is my blackberry row, and I have the thorned old-fashioned blackberries. And you know, if you look back in the playlist, when we planted this row, we just did it real nice. After years, it's kind of spreading both ways. You have to cut those canes out. A 3-year-old cane isn't going to do you much good. A 2-year cane will produce berries, and a 1-year-old cane is just going to grow and possibly spread. So I'm thinking of adding another raspberry patch someplace else, because when I first got my raspberries, I got them from Gurney's, and I got about 3 different varieties. And I know one of them was everbearing, June-bearing, and something else. Well, I try to keep it mowed in between the rows, But those blackberries keep coming over, and my raspberries are going that way. This is my grapevines, and in this area I've got a few raspberry bushes. Like this one is doing really good. So I'd like to divide those off. They're real hardy. A lot of people will sell their dig out or dug out divides, and we've done that with our rhubarb, hostas and things like that. But you see the grass just got out of hand this last year, and it's been the first 2-3 years that I haven't put anything down on the ground besides fertilizer. And that fertilizer is from the barns, cow barn, chicken pen, things like that. And I cleaned out my chicken pen the other day, and I want to move a pile back here to fertilize all this. And I just noticed I've got a volunteer tree growing right here. And it's never enough to just cut those off. So hopefully we'll be able to dig it out, pull it out. What do you do to keep the grass down in between your plants? In the past I did cardboard, and the cardboard had a lot of packing tape on it. It left a mess, so I learned don't put the packing tape down also. You know, plastic is always a good way to go, but I hate plastic. But yeah, see, I got a nice clear path beaten down pretty well there from going through with the mower. But they're growing in, and those are thorny. The raspberries have thorns. They're not thornless either, so do I turn it all under and start over with thornless or not? The backyard orchard has done really good. We kept the cages on all winter, even though some of these are 2 years old now. It just kind of helps keep out. I got some trimming to do on a broken branch there that broke, and it's good to do this stuff while it's dormant before those blossoms come out, because you don't want to be having growth where you don't need it. You want it to go where it's going to, and those blossoms are some of the first pollen for the bees. We sold off all our wrapped hay last week. That's all gone, and I'm going to take that as a cue for starting a garden here. George wants his garden to be a vegetable garden, and Bethany wants a flower garden, and we've given her all this area to do. But when hay bales got put here, she didn't get to work the area so much. The grass, you know, takes over. There's a nice woodchuck hole there too. So we're thinking raspberry, strawberry plants, maybe some blueberry plants on this hill. We've had to keep it kind of semi-open because this opening in the barn there, the hay elevator's usually in there. So if we're bringing the stack wagon here with square bales, he ends up in this area and then has to back up to dump it out. But because it's a hill, it'd be good drainage for strawberries, I think. I figure since all the grass is gone from the plastic sitting there, it's good to take advantage of that. Trey got a free rototiller last year, and that'll be one of his projects, trying to get that all going. He was able to start it and run it, but I think the transmission or levers to make it run were missing, so looking for parts always. So this is what I was talking about, an active beehive. My other beehives here are empty, and I always leave them every year in case there is bees that are swarming that need a home. A queen will leave and look for a new home with a swarm of bees, and no better place than something that smells like home with already drawn out comb and wax. I have to replace my bottom boards on any that have sat out over the winter, so we're going to get some supplies together and get that swapped out because it is delaminating. This one is delaminated very badly. So we're going to go ahead, see what's going on in that hive, make sure that it has 10 frames in each section, and I think that that one possibly might be missing 2 or 3 frames and need to get those put in there. I don't remember, so this is a good time to do it before it all starts getting filled full of new bees. The population is lower. It's good to do it midday when it's not too hot, and today is supposed to top out at 69 or 70 degrees. It's pretty windy, and there's a lot of bees hanging around that entrance, but I saw, like I told you, one going in with pollen. They're looking for stuff, and there's quite a few around there. So we're gonna suit up and see what's going on inside. So one of the first things you do as a beekeeper is put a little smoke in the hive. Now these bees are doing some house cleaning, and we want to see how they're doing on it. This little pile of stuff I just shoved out is like uncappings and whatnot. So we want to help them if they need help, feed them if they need food, and that means like giving them a heater. And that means giving them a feeder if they need. This hasn't been opened up in a while, so it's probably filled up with propolis. And these smokers can be persnickety. They don't always like to start. With these dried leaves, I have bees right here. And I want to tell them to go down to the frames. We want to see if the queen is laying yet. So I always try to keep this handy. And I try to keep it lit. It doesn't always work. It can be something. Now this is going to be fully propolised up and sealed. And like I've got some cobweb type stuff here. Moths may have gotten in here. You just never know. Now I know a lot of people that beekeep hardly use any smoke at all. Some people don't use gloves. I'm not immune to the pain, so I'm gonna be safe here. And this propolis is kind of like a dark orange, reddish color. And I can show you some shots of it up close here in a bit. But basically, it's like their insulating factor. Now, some beekeepers will pack their bees in foam. I have in the past used straw, and I felt like the contact with the straw didn't help. See, I'm getting bees and honey out of frames from last year. So I am going to I don't appear to have any frames in this top, so I'm going to grab an empty box to set this. Now I can just set this down here while I figure out what to do.
flames, when I smoke myself, it masks any scent. It confuses them. And I'm pretty sure these are the bees from that tree. There's a good amount of them. Now I'm going to reload this because I want it to keep going. I'm not a fast beekeeper, so I definitely rely on my smoke. Essentially what happened is I had an empty super on here, and it was a bad idea. So I'm going to take this box off, because this bottom is really bad. I'm going to give them a new bottom. I just felt somebody trying to sting me in my leg, so you have to watch out for that, because when one stings, smoke that spot, it tells the rest to sting, and when they sting, they give up their life for it. So I want to make sure that's on there nice and even. I do see signs of new larvae, which means the queen is in there and she's laying. And it seems like for wintertime that they're all in that upper hive. So I don't know if it will move down. There's nothing on this frame, which means there's no food in it. There's a lot more of them than there is of me. So this is what I want to do. So because it's such a warm day, I'm hoping I can give them a good shake into here, and maybe they'll transfer. Trouble is, all the food is in those upper boxes. So I'm going to leave 3 out. And this is where it's tricky, because I don't have so that's how those bees move on out. They're not crazy about the attention the hive is getting either. So to show you up close, those little white things there, they block the sun. The little whites are larvae. There you go, right there in the center. So there's a queen in there, and I haven't seen her. This hive situation is a mess. So I'm trying to coax them to go down into this hole, and maybe the smoke is making it hard for them, or it's just overcrowded. But I don't want to crush any of the girls. They're here to work, and I'm messing up their work. Just put the cap on, and the rest should go in. This would set right on them and squish them. So what you do is you roll forward, and they'll use the front entrance if they didn't make it in. Now we get some high winds out here, so I always keep a few field rocks around. Now this was a swarm hive that moved in. I just left my hives here over winter because my spring bees didn't make it. And the risk of doing that is you make a nice house for mice. So what I'm doing is next to this hive, I keep another hive ready to go. This particular piece is all beeswax, nothing in it. I'm just going to move it next door. So for now, that beehive is all done. I'm going to set this one back up with just frames and that one empty wax piece. Now you can wire that into a frame that doesn't have the plasticell. That would have been probably the ideal situation. I didn't know how bad it was going to be, so I wasn't ready for that. So I'm going to button up my beehives. They've had more than enough of my visit today. it's nerves of steel, you know, and I know by the volume of their humming that they're getting a little more irritated or they're getting a little more aggressive. They started pelting my bee suit. I have a zip-on hood, so there can be weak spots. You can have holes or damage. I could feel one through my leg, and I'm wearing jeans underneath. I am wearing a short sleeve shirt because it was 70 today. The sun is starting to go down. I tried to get to this earlier, but we were working on some baled hay that needed retied, and I didn't get to it during the time of day I wanted, so more bees are home. Now, if you do it midday, more bees are gone. So when I looked at it earlier, it was probably noonish, and I thought, oh, I've got lots of time. Well, all of a sudden, you know, now it is 4:30, 5 o'clock, and the sun has shifted, and we only have daylight till 6:30 right now. So they'll be good for now. I'm hoping what I left there, that's all their honey stores. I cannot take it away or they will die. And that was the situation that I wanted to look into to find out if there were frames in there, and there wasn't. And if there was larva, larva means there's a queen. And I'm gonna walk over to that tree before dark and see if there's any activity there at all. Because we wanted to start chainsawing that today, and we decided it was too warm that we were gonna wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow's only gonna be in the 40s, which means the bees aren't flying. So if you wonder, how did I let that happen? I didn't beekeep for a year. I got some free bees from a neighbor that were in his tree, and they had been a swarm living in a tree for years, similar to mine. It just got busy working on houses, doing jobs. We're doing roofing, painting, interior jobs, and I didn't want to mess with them, so I just let them alone, and they didn't make it through last winter. So I just left the hives up there while I did my work in other areas and set up my swarm trap over by the tree, figuring they were going to move into there. They found my vacated hives. I guess there was more appeal there for the location, and just that there was drawn beeswax and the scent in the frames. I'm glad I have them. Like I said, a nucleus hive is 5 frames, and they have what's called shallow, mediums, and supers. Supers are, I believe, 8 inches, and mediums are 6 inches. So for me, lifting by weight, you can look it up and Google it, I forget what it is, full of bees, full of honey, it gets quite heavy. So I chose mediums. That's why I start stacking them up. And I think I just pulled the frames out of that one and brought them up to the house and left the box there, and that's why they're there. That's how it happened. But I'm not going to complain for the free bees. What I'll do to fix the situation is I will go back with 10 frames without the plasticell, which is like a support that they, and a framework that they start to build off of instead of just the wooden frame. It helps reduce a little bit them building special cells for drones. They need to be larger, and just a worker bee or a female bee is just the normal size. So you can buy special drone plasticell and dispose of them so you don't get too many drones. Drones are there to go mate or breed other queens. That queen is the mother of all of those bees, and she leaves this hive, or her home hive, to go find males, mates as many as she can, and she gets her lifetime of fertilization in 1 or 2 flights, and then she goes back. There she will live out 2 to 3 years. She starts reducing the amount that she's laying the eggs or the larvae, and you should replace them. And probably what happened with the free bees is that I had an older queen. There might have been a high mite cell count. A lot of different reasons why bees don't make it through the winter. So my fault, as they say, my bad. It was all my
my doings. I just didn't keep up with them. I took for granted the freebies. So we don't want to do that this year. What I will do is start doing divides from that hive and get my 4 hives back. And you can keep doing divides with nurse bees, with larva that's in there, and queen cells, so that when the queen hatches out, they will feed her, they will take care of her. She'll go on a mating flight and she will be the new queen for that hive. So walkaway splits is a good video to watch. I've got that in my beekeeping playlist. All in all, it was a beautiful day. Working on bees, nature walks, working on firewood, and bringing up a load of straw to put up in the loft. Neither one of us has ever minded hard work. It's good, clean living, it keeps the kids out of trouble, and it keeps us busy and in shape. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.